In this video, I'm going to share with you why I started Collective Action, how I started it, and I'm going to explain what Collective Action is. I'm a member of the Prime Minister's Youth Council in Canada, and so with that, we get to send him letters, we get to have, quarterly conversations with the Prime Minister here in Canada. And after the George Floyd killing, a few members of the Prime Minister's Youth Council and I came together and we decided to write him a letter. So we wrote an anti-racism calls to action letter to the Prime Minister. And in this letter had about 5 different recommendations as it relates to anti-black racism. We wrote the letter and we sent it to him, and we heard a response back in about a week. It wasn't anything substantive, it wasn't anything impressive. We didn't feel like he was responding to it with urgency. And then a few of the youth council members and I decided, okay, let's put it on change.org. Change.org is a platform that I'm sure many of you know, where you can go online and you can put on a petition, and many people can go on and sign it. The thing that I learned about change.org is that it's not a guarantee that the Prime Minister would be getting these emails or would be getting people calling him out on anti-racism in Canada. We ended up getting over 1,500 people sign the call to action on change.org, but again, we had no guarantee that the Prime Minister was getting this. We had no guarantee that 1,500 people signing this petition on change.org would lead to change. So that's why it all started. The how was, I essentially started looking at different platforms that would be more effective than change.org. I didn't really believe that the people who were signing the petition were getting through to the PM's mailbox or getting through to, the other end of the petition.
It's not true. That's impossible.
At the end of the day, we wanted to make sure that the PM saw that it wasn't just the youth council, but people across Canada were asking for him to take action. And so I ended up looking for a platform that would be better than change.org, and I came across NewMode. And so NewMode is a platform that powers petitions, and they work with folks like the Sunrise Movement, the Elizabeth Warren campaign, Black Lives Matter, the Greenpeace, Amnesty International. So they've worked with a whole lot of organizations, a whole lot of credible organizations, and they have many options for their online tool. And so I went online and I decided to buy a subscription to NewMode. I bought a subscription with NewMode with the intent of putting our letter that we put on change.org. NewMode comes with a customizable backend, and so we were able to find custom targets for the letter. And so we had all 3 levels of government, so the municipal, local level, the provincial, and then the federal level. People were able to go in on collectiveaction.ca. This tool allowed the letter to be a lot more targeted and a lot more effective, because people were able to not only call out the Prime Minister, but also call out their local councillors, the local mayors, the local members of assemblies. And at the end of the day, change.org allowed us to essentially promote the letter, but NewMode and Collective Action allowed us to really spark change on a local level.
There is more power than ever in people being able to band together and collectively push for initiatives that are going to make change in their lives.
So what is Collective Action? We're a platform that allows people to see what's happening that's creating change and activates them. We believe in the power of collective action. We believe in the power of you. So in the last 6 months, we've had just over 10 campaigns, and we've had over 50,000 people use Collective Action. This means 50,000 people who are speaking directly to their local elected officials, asking for change. Wherever you are, if you see something that you want to speak up about, you want to mobilize people in your local community about, reach out to me and let's put a collective action campaign together for you. If you want to help Collective Action and help us continue to grow and have more campaigns and create change and engage people in local and national issues, join my Patreon community, and support Collective Action Be Sustainable. Thanks for watching, and thanks for supporting Collective Action, and I'll see you on the next video.
Most big change, most human progress is driven by young people who don't know any better and figure, why can't we do something different? Old people get comfortable or cranky or protective of their status or set in their ways. There's a reason why, if you look at, for example, here in the United States, the civil rights movement, the leaders of those movements were in their 20s. Dr. King was 26 when he started, 39 when he was killed. And if you canvass the world, oftentimes that is the impetus. People asking in ways that I think are familiar to many, not why not, or not why, but why not? Why do things have to be the way they are? So that's point number one, that young people, I think, can make an enormous difference. Number two is that because most of us now either live in democracies or countries that purport to be democracies, because we have won the battle of ideas that says governments and our common efforts have to be rooted in the legitimacy of people. There is more power than ever in people being able to band together and collectively push for initiatives that are going to make change in their lives. That's something that for most of human history was unimaginable. That is one of the amazing transitions that has taken place, and you will notice that even in autocracies today, there is at least the pretense of democracy, because people believe that governments that are rooted in people are more legitimate. And that's a battle we won and now have to make real wherever we can. That's point number two. Point number three is simple math. In most places, if you want to get something done, whether it's a smarter climate change policy or health care for people or more funding for girls' education, you've got to have a majority of people supporting it. You got to have votes. You have to have the allocation of resources. And that requires mobilization and a game of addition rather than subtraction. So, and the fourth point I would make would be the internet now has turbocharged the capacity for us to develop movements in ways that we had not imagined before. Now, the last thing I'll say, so that I don't sound like I'm still in the U.S. Senate and filibustering, is I guess a smaller point, but a profound one that I tried to reinforce with my staff at every level of my public work and continue to do to this day. I actually think organizing, mobilizing, starting movements starts with a story. And you can't create a story that moves large numbers of people unless you are able to listen and hear to the story of the person next to you. The story of your neighbors, the stories of your coworkers, the stories of your community, the story of people who are not like you. And so one of the things that I think is important is for us to learn how to listen to each other and learn how it is that we came to be who we are, think the way we do, because that understanding of other people's stories is how you end up ultimately forging bonds and creating the glue that creates movements. Every great movement, you think about Gandhi in India, it started with his understanding of India's story and his own story, and seeing Indians in South Africa discriminated against, and recognizing that there were traditions and myths and a power in those stories that ended up driving out the most powerful empire on earth. It wasn't guns. And increasingly that will be the case, and certainly that will be the case if we want to move forward the sustainable development goals that we're talking about. Is we've got to be able to tell a story not only to big donors or politicians, but also to, for example, people here in the United States who may feel like, look, I've got my own problems, why should I be worrying about somebody on the other side of the world?